Hi, Paul Arnold here, sometimes known as Stuttering Professor, and today I want to talk to you about emotional intelligence, also known as EQ. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because there's been a lot of work that's been shown that it's one of the most fundamental drivers of people's success. And there's one particular study that was done that was looking at people who are running companies who were had very technical skills, they were like a trained accountant or whatever, and looking at leaders who had very good cognitive skills. In other words, they were great at critical thinking, or great at problem solving, or great at having IQ. And then they also looked at a third group of leaders who were very high in EQ, and they found that the leaders who were very high in EQ were delivering 20% higher levels of return than the other two types of leaders. And it makes absolute sense, because you know what EQ is about? EQ is basically our ability to work well with others. And at the end of the day, if you are running a company or a team, or you just got just one or two of you, it's actually critical that you can get on with other people and actually work together. And therefore, that's why we've all got to help improve our quality of our EQ. So let's look at the 5 key elements that make up EQ. There's self-awareness, there's self-regulation, there's motivation, empathy, and social skills. So let's first look at self-awareness. And self-awareness is the idea of understanding who we are and being very much sort of okay with all of us. And I always encourage people to try to go meta, think about, how do I come across to other people? And really invite feedback, invite people to be honest with you, because there's a great psychological thing called a model which is called Johari's window, which is like what's known to self, what's not known to self, what's known to others, and what's not known to others. And basically what we want to do is make sure that there is this, all of us is known to us, and actually in many ways the more authentic we can be, so we're not hiding parts of us to others. So actually we've got to actually get to know more of us and understand more how we are perceived by others. Therefore that gives us our ability to modify our behaviors. And obviously it's not about being this perfect person, because no one is the perfect person, and it's more about accepting your weakness and not trying to pretend they don't exist. And actually in many ways, the more that we actually accept all of who we are, the more authentic we become, and this critically builds trust and connection with others. So that's self-awareness, getting to know who you are more. Then the next one is self-regulation. And this is the idea about being more in control of your emotions, being able to actually not let them run wild from you. And I've talked to you in the past about the emotion sort of cycle I talk about. This idea that some event occurs and then we put meaning on that, and that meaning is influenced by our unique past. And that's where a lot of the work's been done in psychotherapy, about underpinning why do we react like that, because of unresolved issues from our past. But it's the meaning we put on it, and the meaning is the critical bit, because that then creates the emotion, and from the emotion it then creates action, and from action it then creates result. So the more we can actually look at stuff and say, are we putting the wrong meaning on this? Are we really taking this as some sort of slight of our ego? And actually if we can put that more into a greater context, therefore we can actually let go of that stuff and be more in control of our emotions. And the other thing is that, there's this thing which is about the sort of physiology we take on with certain emotions. If we're very shy and very nervous and very lacking confidence, we'll tend to crawl down into more of that sort of fetus idea. And obviously we can turn that around, and we start saying, well, actually, motion creates emotion. So sometimes we can take on head up that power stance, and we can build ourselves to have our confidence. So actually we can be more in control of our emotions than we think we can't be. The next one is motivation, and this idea about finding the sort of energy, the passion to really push through and do the right stuff. And actually we know that energy and motivation and passion are very infectious. And there's a great model that I often refer to, which I call the MAP, which is this idea called mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And let's turn it the other way around and let's talk about purpose. Fundamentally, what drives our motivation is having purpose. We're doing something that is meaningful to us. So therefore, we've got to find the importance of that stuff and why is this really of great need for us to be doing this? Then we're going to push through all that stuff. And the A stands for autonomy. This idea that we want to be left alone to go and do it and not be sort of, overcrowded and sort of micromanaged. No one likes being micromanaged. And the M is mastery. This idea which links into the purpose of we're trying to become really good at something. And that itself becomes a purpose. So mastery, autonomy, and purpose will help drive that motivation. And then empathy. And empathy is really about this idea of understanding it from another person's point of view. That old classic phrase about sort of getting into their moccasins, seeing it from their side. And actually the most important thing we know in all the work done in rapport is this idea that acknowledgement and validation of another person is the most critical thing we've got to go and do. And actually the trouble is too many people are wrapped up in their own stuff that they're not really seeing it from the other side. And we've got to let go of our stuff, be okay with our stuff to allow ourselves to hear the other person and actually be there. And there's that great phrase, be here now. Ignore that other stuff and be here now for the other person. And with that sense, with that non-verbal communication, with that softening, with that openness, then actually it makes the other person feel validated, listened, appreciated. And then they're in a place where they're going to want to work with you. And it's this idea about acceptance of our differences. We're all different and we all should be celebrating those differences. And often in the form of empathy, there's a great phrase which says that through understanding comes acceptance. And if we really try and work to understand why they do what they do, where they're coming from, you can say, I understand why you're against this project on this particular thing, because I understand where you're coming from. And that great phrase, seek first to understand before being understood, all plays into that place of empathy. And the last one is social skills. And social skills is not about being able to tell a good joke. I'm not saying that telling a job isn't a useful thing to have as well. But actually, it's this ability to just be with other people. I remember speaking to one person who said to me, the trouble with people, they're dangerous things. And actually people never know where someone is with another person. And the idea to know that you've got enough skills, enough resources, enough confidence that you can just be with another person, just sit with another person and be okay. And too many of us bring our anxieties and our phobias and our fears into those relationships. And this is built just to be. And actually this idea about fundamentally the heart of EQ is about building rapport. So how do you build rapport? The most important place to build rapport is through our values and our beliefs. And the more that we can actually talk when we're having conversations with people, say, what's important for you? That's the place that we're really going to connect it. Oh my God, you and I share the same thing. Or if our identities are connected. So we've got to push deeper. I always say that we've got to get out of that very first level of relationships and get to understand a person. And the more we understand them, the more likely we're going to have an openness of conversation. So anyway, that's a very quick run through on EQ. It takes time to work on this stuff, and some of them you're not going to be as good as others. That's fine. The more we can inch it forward, the better we're going to be. So there's self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. I hope that's of use. I clearly run loads of workshops in this field, and if I could be of use to you, then please contact me. Details at the end of this video. Ciao and have a good day. Bye.